Always now. So the newer cars, if you leave your fob in, the mirror's in.
If the doors are unlocked, the mirrors are out as if you drive.
I don't have a Land Rover. I got a county car. But, so those things that they know, they educate themselves on, and they'll drive down the street and the mirror's out, mirror's in, whatever it is. And they'll get out and they know that's a car they can steal. They'll go down the block, and the car they're using to steal this car is a stolen car, right? So they'll steal a car, they'll keep it for a couple of days, and it doesn't get hit, switch some plates on it or whatever, then they'll go in to steal more cars, and they'll watch. Then they went into the driveways. A couple of places up on the North Shore, they hit them pretty hard in their driveways. Again, people leaving the fob. We went out, you might have seen it, we had the explorers and our cops out, handing flyers out, educating everybody on, please take your fobs in the house. We went to Newark, New Jersey. We took posters and we hung it, anybody with information, because I wasn't getting the assistance that we thought was appropriate from Newark, because it was their gang, so we went to them. And we hung flyers around there in all their community, handed them out, saying, hey, if anybody has information. That slowed it down, the education slowed down, and now there's a new group, and they're brazen, and they come, and now they're slipping into the houses to go after the keys. Three things that factor in, and I told you before, this is not the political speech, right? I don't do politics, I do policing. Bail reform kills me. It kills me. They walk. I don't care how many times I arrest that kid with the car, he's walking out with no bail. Raise the age. It used to be less than 16, or 16 or more, you were considered adult. That's now 18 or more. So they raised the age. So they how old are you? 17? Here, you go steal this car and we're gonna drive you, you're gonna steal the car. If you get caught, just surrender, you're gonna get an appearance ticket and walk out the door, show up in family court down the road. So there's no prosecution, right? So between the bail reform, the raise the age, and a lot of other things that factor, they're the two items that are killing us right now when it comes to, because we're locking up, we're investing in locking people up. Nobody stays in jail. And it's a problem for us here. Yes, sir.
So I want to kind of go back to the Mallard scenario that just recently happened. I don't know who would be answering this question.
Yeah.
So is this there's only limited details that we've been given, and obviously you're talking a little bit about specific gangs or areas coming from South America. It seemed like the depiction of this individual wasn't of that, and I'm not just trying to create. Is this, what else can you tell us? Like, is this person who's knocking on a window with a knife? Seems pretty abnormal to me. What else can you possibly share in terms of, is this something that's also happening potentially in an adjacent town where they're suspect that it's an insane individual? I mean, I don't.
So I'll answer from a non-factor, that's his investigation.
Okay.
So he's got to be careful on what he answers in an investigation. But I will tell you this, that's not the norm, right? Burglars don't bang on doors with a knife in their hand.
Right.
It would appear to me, and again, outside, it's targeted, right? Because somebody came back later on in the day, right? So, there's more to that we have to find out. Again, but it definitely is not a problem or a pattern that's occurring. And I just gave you the numbers. You guys are unbelievably safe up here. But one time is enough to upset a whole community as we see it today.
Sorry, follow up, I apologize.
You're a reporter.
No, I think software sales.
Oh, it's about the sales. I got it.
The period of time, from what I understand, right, was some portion with hours in between, which I imagine, to your point, a lot of vehicles assessing this particular neighborhood, more watch, etc. And then what seems to be a second, like, how in God's name was that missed? Also for this poor family, in terms of every house, like, I don't even understand, like, was there not a cop, police officer, I apologize, that was sitting there, managing the air, like, I just don't really understand, I'm sorry, so scared, neighborhood member here.
I mean, to your point, like, even the initial incident seemed atypical and targeted, so how they were able to come back hours later and vandalize the house, like, is scary.
What was the time in between?
The report time, the difference is we don't know exactly what time it was painted. We do know the time that we got the call for the knock on the door, and then it was about a 2-hour period between that and then when they came back with the paint.
So that subject that came back with the paint, if it was the same subject or somebody related to the same subject, but obviously didn't know we were there or came there, right? Because that's pretty brazen, it's gonna come back. Or is somebody suffering from some kind of, now listen, I'm not making excuses, but could there be somebody out there with some cognitive issue that did this? Is there somebody out there suffering? And again, we get that quite often. Not this excuse, that's up to them to try to find out what happened. But I will tell you this, so, yes, you brought up a point, how does a cop not get? So, we got 8 precincts in Nassau County. And in the 8 precincts, you put on post about 20, how many cars, 24? 24 cars that go on post just in this precinct alone. Then you have BSO, which puts out 15 cars, then you have CERT, which puts out 5 cars, then you have COPE, puts out 5, then you have your pop cops, your community affairs officers, your mounted unit, your K9, your aviation, your all of the above, right, that are out there. So we are one of the more saturated police departments, besides New York City, which a while ago had a lot more cops, but unfortunately they're losing a lot of cops right now. But besides New York City, we're very saturated for this size. We have 456 square miles and we have 1.5 million jammed into it. Take Suffolk County, there's about 1.5 million people. You could pick up Nassau County and drop it into Brookhaven, and it fits. That's the size. They put out about 2/3 of what we put out every day on patrol.
Can I
So
ask
you-
one more question?
Yep.
So if we're saturated, this is the part that I'm struggling with. Last month, there were many families that are here. I wasn't at the meeting, to be completely transparent. There was a house that was broken, well, there's a car that was broken into. It's directly across the street from the one that was vandalized this week. So if people in our community were sitting here in December and were assured there were gonna be additional patrol cars, how does the house across the street? I understand separate incidents,
Yep.
but while we're talking about saturation, I'm just having a little bit of trouble putting those two
When-
together when they're like,
Right, so
people are supposed to be watching.
you can't be everywhere all the time. And look, they went, they processed that house, they did the case report, they interviewed, whatever they did, and then 2 hours later, or maybe 2 hours later, somebody comes back and spray paints the door. Something's not right there, right? And the same with if it's across the street. Now, I go back to the same thing. You do get your repeat offenders that love to, once they get success, they'll come back a second time. Not in that case, not like a burglary, but breaking into cars. But you can't cover it all, but I gave you the numbers. It's unbelievably, whenever I got asked to come up and speak at a community meeting, I always get nervous and I just flip open the page. Oh, let me take a look. That's pretty good, but that doesn't matter because that one person on Mallard Lake, it doesn't, to them, that's the end of the world. That's their house, right? And that one car, that's their car. You feel violated. So we take it very serious. The investment is there. We do have an exorbitant amount of police officers out there, but still there's so many roads and ways throughout Nassau County. It's just, there's a lot to cover. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious on some statistics, and I don't know if you have them, but within what you track, how many of those villages and towns actually have private security and pay for their own private security? And how does that interact with Nassau County Police, where like something like this that happened in Mallard, if Flower Hill had some sort of private security, like in East Hills, private security guards driving around, maybe we could have stationed that security guard there all day to act as, to relieve some of what you're telling us is saturation and an inability to necessarily cover an active site all day. Do you find that those villages are having less issues, and how does the interaction with you help?
So to see somebody commit, let me just first address it, see somebody commit 2 crimes at the same location within a couple hours is unheard of. It just doesn't happen.
Right, but we're also talking about 3 crimes now within a week and a half of each other. One, my car was vandalized.
Right.
Then down the street, the car was vandalized, and then across the street, the house was
Right.
spray painted and
So
broken
when-
into. So we're talking about within 2 weeks of each other.
All on the same block?
All within less than a half a mile radius.
So I'm gonna tell you, we got a problem kid in that neighborhood right now, a person in that neighborhood. And it's either someone that is a drug user, and knows that he has an addiction and needs to steal, or it's going to be somebody that suffers from some cognitive issue that is out there doing these type of crimes. We don't see homeless in your community. We don't see The migrant issue is not here in your community. So again, it happens, so when you bring up private security, there's very few villages that have their own private security. Some do, it's a cost and expense to the village. We're never gonna say you can't, we're gonna say, do you need it? It's not, the private security is not gonna stop the private, somebody standing in front of that house, well, then what do you do with the other, I don't know how many residents are in the village?
A little under 5,000.
So what do you do with the other 4,999 houses? You know, there's nobody standing in front of it, and they want one, and they want one. So, and again, it's not, in the South Shore, we got a couple of villages also that hire private patrols, they never catch anybody, they never stop anything. Most of our arrests occur from our detective division. Cops do a great job, they arrest drug users, drug dealers, car stops, guns, gangs, potential crimes. When crimes happen in the actual act, it's tough to stop by a patrol cop, it's usually an after effect thing, because bad guys are smart, they'll wait, they'll watch, they'll see the car go by, they'll scout it out a little bit, they'll look, it's okay, and then they'll go up and they'll look for that house that has no cars in the driveway, the garbage cans haven't been taken in, the mail's still in the mailbox, and it's 5:30. And he may come back the second day to see it, and then he'll finally do that break-in and try to see what the alarm is. Yes, sir.
I know Flower Hill there's multiple parts of Flower Hill, but where these crimes have occurred, happens to be the area where I live as well. There are only, you had mentioned, a lot of ways into that. In this specific area, there's actually only like 2 or 3 access points to get in or out. So what about better monitoring and controlling of those access points or camera readers or something? Because there's really only, especially where these 3 crimes took place, there's really only
There's
4 access points.
Four.
So,
In this part,
without a
so
doubt,
it's really not like a
Yep.
thoroughfare where they
so
can come.
without a doubt, we can put some technology in there, that's on us, that doesn't, that's, the county does that. We could put some license plate readers in them areas, capture some plates, see what's coming and going, and pop up a couple of cameras, that's not a problem, we'll do that. Knowing now, that's what it is, it's such a,
Literally
Right.
four.
I mean, that's our part of Flower Hill. I know there's other people in different
Yes.
parts, like on the other side of Port Boulevard, it's a broader area, so I'm not speaking for everyone, but these crimes seem to be concentrated in.
and look, we've had that little pocket of an issue, somebody's in there causing this problem.
To that point, I'd like to make a suggestion. Instead of seeing cameras, because I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. Cars are stolen, plates aren't authentic, faces are covered. So other than seeing the crime actually happen, that's probably not going to lead to a solution. I'd rather see unmarked cars in the area, parked, just sitting, because these guys operate in crews, right, like you said before. There was an incident, I think in December when we had our first meeting, where a house was hit between, I think, 3 and 3:30. And there was somebody who happened to be driving around the neighborhood, coming back from work or something, they immediately got in the car and scattered, and then they came back. If you had unmarked cars at 4 points of entry into the community, you would see the pattern of 2 cars together following each other, leaving, and then coming back. That's suspicious activity, especially those hours. So to me, logically, if you're gonna spend several thousands of dollars, maybe tens of $20,000 or more on a video surveillance system, that will ultimately lead to a dead end, I would rather see boots on the ground, an unmarked car in the corner
So
somewhere.
she's a reporter, you a cop?
No, sir.
Should have been. So, very good point, right? So, but there's a lot of areas to cover, but we've already done it. How many cars we put out a night now? 6 or 7 cars a night?
Just from the DD, absolutely.
Okay, just from the detective division and then BSO. So and it's not, don't take this wrong, it's not because of this Flower Hill crime. It's what's happening just to the north of us, northwest. Thank you. But we have put out these extra resources because we're seeing that South American Deaf Group and these newer kids coming back. It went quiet for a while and then it started to pick up. I'm gonna take a real 40 years of doing this. I'm gonna take a real good guess. It's a kid in the community or somebody local that's coming back. Knowing that what I'm knowing now, it's gotta be. So
I'm sorry, why is this the first, do you not know about those other, who does know about,
no, he does.
but,
He knows
okay.
And Inspector
I'm
in
just
the back does.
confused.
No, I'm the commissioner of police. I run a really big company. But I know what it means to you, so that's why I'm here. I got 4,000 employees I gotta try to manage. So but I have been in law enforcement for 40 years. And when you start talking about the roads that are specific to the area, plain clothes is definitely better. The camera never catches me. And especially at nighttime, a video camera's not gonna help. License plate reader may, but if the car's already stolen and the switch plate are covered, we're out of business. So
I'd rather
people,
see that money go to
you
a
can't-
Walmart car, even a car that was stolen and recovered, you guys can recover it, put it on the street,
100% right.
Altima, Honda Accord, something.
I'm gonna talk to the inspector afterwards and
Just a
see
thought.
if our pop guys can maybe do something up here and get, see what, it's gotta be a local kid there. It's gotta be-
Commissioner?
Yes.
Just clarify something for me. If Flower Hill invested in cameras and or license plate readers, because they tend to be separate instruments, how would that help or not help? Because I understand if, let's say we installed LPRs in 28 possible entrances to the village. That system is not connected to your system. You would have to come to us.
No, we would connect it. We'd actually store it for you too. We'd store the
If we-
data.
If we installed our own LPRs.
Yep.
You would have access to it.
Yes, sir. We have it. There's several villages up here that have them already that are connected. Kings Point,
East Hills.
and they feed to our system.
East Hills, East Hills doesn't have LPRs. They only have cameras, I believe.
Cameras.
So those cameras are not hooked up to your system live.
No, they are.
In East Hills.
Wait, but I'm gonna tell you, you can have 1,000 cameras live, nobody's watching them.
No, I get it.
It's impossible. It's just impossible.
So I just want, again, to clarify, if we had.
Somebody's staring at them, they watch it.
If I had a limited budget and I installed LPRs ever throughout the village.
Yep.
Those could be connected to,
My system.
and then if somebody drove by, my deputy mayor had a stolen car.
Yep.
And you would get that hit and you'd be able to send resources.
Yes. So let me tell you how the license plate reader works. The plate reader can read any plate, daytime, nighttime, doesn't matter. And even now with the new technology, it can read white BMWs. So there's Flock and there's LSAT. Flock was the more aggressive. Now LSAT is bought into that same program. So we can monitor a lot. Most of it is pattern behavior, right? We're looking to see who's coming in to constantly steal. Once the car is stolen and in the system, then it will send an alarm. So I'm driving down the street, I got an LPR, bing, that's a stolen car, let me turn around and go get it. If it's up on a pole, it's gonna send back that it passed this pole. Nobody's sitting down below the pole waiting to get that read. But the data goes into the computer. So we know right now, up here, there's between the stolen cars and the burglars, it's a black BMW, blue BMW, and a white BMW. So I said, I do some stuff. But so it's a black and a white BMW, and they've been in the area. So we have our information that we're feeding into the system. We're looking for white and black BMWs when they come into the neighborhood, and we say, hey, you got a white and a black BMW or one of the two, just past this LPR at this location, be aware they're in the neighborhood. 3:30 in the morning, you don't get too many driving around. So they're the ones that are coming in to commit these crimes. So yes, that data would be fed to us. Yes, we would store it. We would absorb that cost, and you would absorb the cost of the LPR.
Okay.
So
What about a camera system in
Wait-
connection with an LPR?
wasting your time. And I say that all the time.
I'm asking the professional, that's why.
So cameras will go up. They'll, in this office right now, there's a camera that's looking at me. It's got me recorded. That one up there, whatever them
Yeah,
people
it's
are.
up back there.
Right? But out in the street, if it rains, if it snows, if it's dark, you gotta have night vision, and what we get is images. I'll get height, I'll get, dark clothing, I'll get he had a hood up, I'll get he had a mask up. Cameras do not solve crimes. They sometimes gather data that will help, eventually arrest that individual, but it doesn't stop that crime when it happens, or it doesn't help us when it's happening.
So then those villages around here that have invested large sums of money in camera systems.
Well, them villages, but those cameras, the video cameras, feed back to the village, and somebody in their village is monitoring. They may have it in their park. If it's up to the
The
village.
ones that are on the streets and the local, and I won't name them. I won't name them. No one's monitoring them. They're using it after the fact. So you're telling me that in theory, a lot of the money that they spent probably should have been spent somewhere else.
It can be spent a lot of different ways. I got to be careful. I don't get myself.
I-
All you mayors out there, I'm not getting.
That's why I'm not naming any.
Yeah.
Commissioner,
Yes. Hello.
neighborhood watch do you see that in a lot of Nassau County?
So when someone talked about investing in a security or something like that, There is nothing wrong with a neighborhood watch once they stay in rules and under
I
control.
mean, like if your, Claire, your neighborhood were to have, let's get together and make sure everybody knows, even the
Melissa.
nannies, everybody.
Yeah.
You see something, call 911. I mean, like an informal, not a vigilante.
No,
kind of-
I know, I know you didn't mean
Hey,
vigilante, but no, they absolutely, informal, more information comes to us through the informal chain than the actual. We'll get information from communities that see something or say something and notice something and tell us about it. Setting up a watch group that's not on patrol even, just, listen, that informal group of speaking to the kids, someone in the school knows this is going on, and next you know, we got a problem in this school and there's a school threat over there. And that's how we solve both of those things, speaking to them. So it never hurts, but what I always say to every community that does it, and we have a lot in the 5 towns area, if you're gonna have a security force, you gotta tell us, so we don't end up getting involved and have a gun battle between an innocent person that we don't know. Yes, sir.
Thinking outside the box here, I don't know if it is or if it isn't, Long Island Railroad, stations, train cars, so on and so forth, ticket purchasing booths, are those wired into surveillance? I know we should.
Yes, and actually MTA has a great system. Now, there's a difference where a camera does make a difference.
Sure.
Because they're well-lit areas. Street corner in the back of the neighborhood, not gonna work too well. Doorbell ring, phenomenal. If you don't have a doorbell ring, get a doorbell ring, and I'm not advertising for doorbell ring.
Well, I'm just thinking like the planned on train stations right here.
MTA has a
People
phenomenal,
from anywhere.
as a matter of fact, we had a suspicious car in Rockville Center, you might have seen it in the paper. It had some Arabic writing on it, it was parked on the side of the street. It had blinking taillights going off, it had wires hanging out of the dashboard, tape over it, a picture of Saddam Hussein, some other language in the front, and it was leaking antifreeze, and the plate was taken off. Believe it or
That's
not.
for along with that, that's fine.
No, there's no wrong, right, believe it or not, when we looked at it, it may have been somebody that just actually, his car broke down, they took the plate off, we know who he is, we've interviewed him, he's 21 years old, but the fact that scared the living heck out of the community, and we had to send Austin Baum and everybody else to do that, so,
I'm just thinking like in reference to the case in
the
Mallon,
MTA cameras picked all of that up for us.
Okay.
Both of them, it was right by the river. So, some work, some don't. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I missed the time that the guy with the knife, what time was that of the day?
10:30.
And then by the time the police left after the report, and after the search, it was approximately 2 hours after the car left, is when we got the call to go back. So the time between the first event and the second event was greater than 2, but while the police were gone, it was about 2 hours.
And it was like right after the helicopter, like, last stop,
Well,
circling too.
my example is that bad guys watch, you know, when the cops in the world, when the cops leave, that's when they get in front. You know, they're observing too, and
Right.
unfortunately, we'd love to come back around, but an unlocked car here and there is going to help. I got a nice van for you tomorrow. Yes, sir.
I know you're here to talk about policing and security, not politics, but I do have a couple of questions that have political dimensions to it. One is, are there any things that I see our legislator had to run for our daughter's birthday, but are there any active discussions at the county legislature level around existing laws or prospective improvements to laws that could help enable you to sort of punish these criminals a little more? You alluded, for example, to the folks that are coming from South America and or juveniles who are essentially doing this and if you get caught, go home. Is there anything going on that you're aware of? And if not, what kinds of laws would be beneficial that, you know, we might be able to digest and think about in terms of speaking with political elected
Yeah,
officials?
so both sides, right, Republican, Democrat, are very receptive when law enforcement comes in and gives some ideas. But it's, you know, coming up with these new ideas and what to change the law, it's kind of complicated. So the state dictates what the law is, the law of raise the age, the role of bail reform. Now the Clean Slate Act, they clean your record out, so you can go back and nobody has a record anymore. What they're doing, and now the newest stuff that they're coming out with, even the governor's gonna speak tomorrow, so he's gonna make some announcements. The argument has to come that we stop some of this. And in fairness, I will say that going back 3 years ago, when bail reform came out, I had the conversation with a couple of the senators, and they were perturbed because I was out there against it. And when I said, look, they went back and they made some changes. Some of the changes that helped the judges in decisions. But it's not black and white. When it was no bail, it was no bail. End of story. Now it says, well, you can ask bail. Well, some judges will go, well, I'm not asking for bail. And so that's a problem. So, it's very good that you reach out to your local legislator and you get them to try to come up with some ideas. We always push certain ideas to them, when it comes to this. And look, most of the time, it's towards, they had a hate crime, that was on the rise. Or if there's something that's going on, graffiti, local laws, we can really change. State laws, we can't change, it has to come from the state legislative body.
Is that public voting or on the state level only?
That's
When the elections come around, can we vote
You
on
vote
these
any
crimes?
way, yeah, any way that you think is going to affect your outcome, that's going to better you, and give us better tools back, that's the way you vote. That's the way.
Well, it's not like we get a message saying, hey, this bill is up for resigning, this affects bail reform, vote how you like, but we wouldn't get that information, I don't think, would we?
No, you would, you'll
Yeah.
see, listen, tomorrow night, the governor, and I have no idea what she's going to say, and whatever she's going to put out there, she's gonna put out there, and if it affects law enforcement, the unions right away will have a reaction. So state and local legislators will have a reaction, but this is just a proposal she's pushing forward, and then they watch to see how it reacts. Right, so that's
The
what it is,
question was,
right?
local representatives really can't, it's a state issue. It's a New York State issue, it's a state law. The bail reform law is a state law, the county can't change, we can't change it. It's a state.
But we have a state senator, we have a state assembly person, and in my previous email, I let everybody know their email addresses. And I highly recommend you reach out to them, everyone here reach out, and let them both know what our thoughts are on this, because they're the ones who can possibly change the law.
Yes, sir.
I'm not so into the government affairs and but where they were with it, but I know there was talk about having the Port Washington Police become involved with this village as part of the village here in Port Washington. But I think it came at a cost. At a high level though, is there a benefit to the village for something along those lines instead of a private
I
security?
answer this very carefully because I love all these village police. Every one of these chiefs are great, the departments are great, and I have no issues with them. There are 19 villages in 2 cities in the county of Nassau. So there's 19 other agencies out there, and they work hand in hand with this. All the chiefs that you
So you like successful police into the.
tomorrow, right? But when you take on that role, that agency will take over the patrol function in Port Washington because they are a district. They do have some detective investigative side of it. But anything that major comes, we come in. If you need emergency service, you need a SWAT team, you need hostage negotiators. That's what Nassau County feeds. So there's a headquarters tax that gets paid to get those services, but then you would pay an additional service for that police department to come in your taxes.
But in terms of delivery of service, like is that almost the best of both worlds at that point for the village?
I don't think so, and that I can answer fairly, they know I would answer that way. I think the service is the same. I think we all have great police officers doing the job.
Ira, I asked Port Washington Police last year if they were interested in expanding service, and they were not. Now, I might reach out to them again because they, no offense to Commissioner
No.
Ryder, but my residents have asked the question, so I need to find out
Yeah.
what to do. Now there's a new commissioner, things might be different. I haven't had a chance to reach out to the new commissioner yet, but they weren't interested in expanding their service to the village.
That answer was very.
Does, cop in a car, cop in a car. And just what your cost is that you're willing to pay.
You guys have cop stations here as well.
Yes.
So-
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about the car robbery. Can you tell or any sense of what percentage of car robberies are visitory runoff?
Oh, I can tell you that number
Or
very
bombs,
clearly.
whatever, just stuff.
Not that I study it every day, but 92%. 92% of cars are unlocked,
Unlocked or.
are fouled up there.
How pertinent is this thing about wireless technology where they can stand in front of your house even if your bot is 10 feet inside that?
So there is a advanced technology like that, not that I want to advertise and educate people on the bad side, but there is that technology that they can go by the car or go by your pocketbook and read it. Does it happen that often? No. Right? I don't think we're not seeing much of it up here.
But they do sell RFID boxes that you put your keys in to block the signal,
Listen,
even if they have that.
the technology that is out there today about what they do, just on getting into hacking into your accounts and cyber crimes and everything else, what we invest in just cyber alone to protect our infrastructure is incredible. we're very good, you know, that we keep everything in silos and then we're not connected to each other. So if one goes down, I get it, but I'm gonna give you a number, we probably get hit about 1,000 times a week into the National County system to try to penetrate. And we fight them all. Yes, sir.
Do the tints over license plates foil the
They're
readers?
not supposed to have tints over it, it does affect the reader and the red light cameras.
Okay.
Not that I'm educating you how to be the red light camera, but if you get caught with that tint, you will get a ticket.
Is that a primary offense where somebody can be pulled over just for having the tint? Or
Just
they
for having the
have to
tint.
have
That is
done-
correct.
They don't have to have done anything else to get.
Nothing else, just that, and we can seize it off the car. Yes, sir.
So the laws now seem to be slanted towards the criminals, and I'm just curious, if you find someone in your home from a self-defense standpoint, any do's or don'ts in terms of protecting yourself and your
Well, I'm
property?
gonna bounce out of that one, say, call 911. Listen, always call 911, you don't want to, we always, that you're not engaging that person, you know, it's that old run, hide, fight.
I'm not saying I want to engage. in
Right,
this,
right.
I'm saying-
But the laws, the laws still protect you, it's your residence, if somebody's breaking in, you have a right to defend yourself. We always say, go back, call 911, run out the back door. I hate to say that, as my house, I'm not giving up my house, but you know what, don't wanna give up my life either, that guy's got a gun on or a knife, and was it worth it for what they're gonna steal?
No, I'm just saying, it seems like if the person comes in, intrudes, and then you have to defend yourself, and that person gets hurt.
You're good, it's in your residence.
Okay, that's what I'm clarifying.
But Commissioner, not if it's in the driveway, correct?
No, inside your residence. that's-
Because that question has come up before, so
Oh, not in the
only in the
driveway.
house, don't go run out in the driveway when someone's.
Only in that house.
If you go out and they run away, if they're running, listen, I don't wanna get too deep into this, but if they're running away, you can't chase them and then fight them. If they ran away, they ran away, they retreated, you stay home, you're a civilian, you call us. We chase them.
So
Catch them.
if someone breaks into your house, right, and there's like a scuffle, right, and then like I fall down the stairs and I break my leg, they're not gonna get arrested and released.
No, so
because-
now what happened is, there's violence now attached to that burglary, it raises up to burglary 2, and now we get.
So I have to like break my arm before I.
No.
I got it.
I'll fake it, no. Yes, sir.
Sorry, last question on the Mallard front, were there cars there? Were there cars there?
In the driveway,
Yeah.
is anybody home?
No, the nanny was home.
Were there cars in
Yes,
like?
there was a car in the driveway,
Okay.
and somebody was home, not me, but my nanny was home.
Okay.
You're that person. Yes, sir.
So these kids or whoever that are breaking into cars or people who broke into houses, historically the ones who have been caught, even if they've been let go the next day, armed, not armed?
The majority, almost 95% are not armed. They're there to steal, 97, 98%. They're there to just steal. And they know, they'll fight, get caught, because they know if they have a weapon, the crime charge goes up, they go to jail. They know if they fight, the charge goes up, they go to jail. If they don't do nothing and they get caught, they surrender to the police. They can run, and if nothing happens in that running, and we end up catching them, it's not gonna be an increase in the charge.
Some of them have been with people home, some are trying to get in now because they figure you're home and go through your jacket, things like that. So there's more chance of having an encounter if you're
And
home.
that has also raised the charge because there's somebody in the residence. So, any other questions?
I guess one, we're in a neighborhood that is close to the highway and is not very well lit. Does that factor into why they're targeting these neighborhoods? And if there were street lamps spread out, would that help, do you
So
think?
I spoke before about septic, crime prevention through environmental design. The design of a well-lit area compared to a dark area, this place, the dark area will get crime more than the well-lit area. So it's always something beneficial to your house, motion cameras that go on, and then, and your light that goes on with it, that doorbell ring with the light that goes on. So if you have doorbell ring, you got to register for the police package. And what that does is this. So you're not home, the doorbell ring goes off, you see it, oh, there's two guys going up the driveway. The next day, I get a burglary on one of those streets. And I say to doorbell, just in an email, say, hey, we had a burglary at this location, 123 Sycamore. I want all the cameras that picked up any motion in a 1 mile radius between 3 AM and 4 AM. Within minutes, so not minutes, within the half hour, I'm getting that video sent to me. So I'm not going to look for it, I don't have to, you sign off on it, so if something happened in your house that night that you don't want nobody to see, just don't say no that night, right? But if it said, if something happened, didn't happen, you wanna send it, you say yes, and it comes to us. So I can't access it, but you give the authority, and it helps us solve so many crimes, looking for patterns and images. And those doorbell rings have, I don't know, the cameras are phenomenal, and a lot of times they're backed up with lighting, that helps us.
Do they trigger on human movement only, or a vehicle also would trigger motion?
Doorbell rings on people and cars, movement, dogs, cats, yep, it's how you, and you get to censor it, you can get it wider, closer.
You can expand the power, I
That's
thought there
correct.
was one for human movement versus
There is.
any movement.
There
Because
is.
it's going off every second.
Is it?
There is. There's a person detected mode and
Yeah.
there's a motion mode. The problem is if you have it on a wide span like I do in front of my house, I get about 200 notices a day.
Easily.
Every car, every school bus, every garbage truck. You know, you don't look at it after a while because you're just inundated with these.
But if you do narrow it down, and I have mine narrowed down, I see my kids sneaking in beers at night. That's what happens. Anything else? All right, so here's what I promise you, right? Inspector Radigan is here, the pop is here, the lieutenant of the squad is here. We appreciate the fact that you're paying attention to this, and we gotta do what we can to help solve this. We will find out who did malice. It will come to a conclusion. We will have the extra resources, you'll probably see them. And, you know, I always warn people when they start saying about things, well, we got speeding up and down this one street, and then we put a call, and we start addressing the speeding. Well, you're right in residence. Well, it kind of doesn't work that way, you know? But for this purposes, we will have somebody out there. We'll invest a little bit more resources. I'll get them a nice undercover vehicle that they can use. We'll make sure that we're out there. All right? Smith? Good?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, officers.
Yeah, very good. No, that's
We will continue the rest of our meeting. In a few moments.
Thank you, guys. That was awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna see you tomorrow. I mean, Wednesday? See you on Wednesday? Wednesday? I'll see you on Wednesday?
I don't go anywhere.
Oh, you don't go anywhere? You've been kicked out?
Harry still works for us, so that's his job. And then Gary is the secretary, you only have two.
We just like seeing you.
So I don't really go, which is fine, I don't need to get up at 6 o'clock on Wednesday.
I agree with you.
To have an omelet.
Yeah.
I did it for many years.
Happy New Year, guys.
I did it for many years.
This was great, by the way. This guy coming in. I mean, this was
He's the police commissioner.
yeah, no, it's a big deal.
He's recognized nationwide.
Yeah.
It's a great deal. As
Yeah,
one of-
absolutely.
as
Big
one
time.
of- I've known him for years.
Seems like it.
He's very good. He didn't need to.
No, but and I'm sure he'll follow up on everything he said.
He's actually he's obsessed with. He takes this serious.
I'm surprised people are.
I have seen him give up so much of his personal time.
That's awesome. Yeah.
To go to various functions.
Yeah, at like 9 o'clock at night.
He's here. He's out at the school time. He should be home, family.
Yeah.
He's a 24/7.
Very cool. Awesome. And thank you guys for coordinating too. So.
We're lucky, but I hear rumors that he's in demand by a lot of other.
Someone scoop him up.
Guys like that. Yeah, let's move into this. No, I just embarrassed. You want to tell him to move it outside?
Michigan's already blowing out. I know. I'm trying to
I'll see what everybody else says.
Everyone will walk out.
Let's say it's cellular.
These are my marrows. I haven't seen you in years. Good to see you.
And then finally being a
my daughter, she sleeps there. Our center, she wants to stand up.
I used to wear like Converse. I'm talking like the 60s. I remember I bought a pair of slides. They were $20.
Thank you, receiver of taxes, Collins. Thank you. All right, back to the regular part of the meeting. So first I'm gonna start with public comment. Does anybody have any comments from the public?
You want me to bring them back in here?
That being no, next. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 4th Board of Trustees meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion to approve the claims?
I have read them over, I have signed everything, and I, as always, would like, I have no issues with any of the claims that were made.
Why is blink off, and blink off 2 months? They didn't bill us?
Because what happened is, I asked Suzanne, in the October, your billing person,
Missed the
Mrs. Blinkoff, I believe, sent the bill a little late out of process, and we didn't get to approve in the October meeting, and then somehow we didn't pay it till then.
So I saw 13. I'm like,
You're getting two checks this month. Somehow there was that is the explanation I got from Suzanne today. We got the bill after the October meeting, and for whatever reason we didn't
I
process
thought your
it.
fee went up. I'm like,
No.
It doubled.
yeah,
It's a missed month. So please have your accounting person, Mrs. Blinkoff, send everything on time for prompt payment. We will take care of
I
that.
don't know, maybe you should put like a disclaimer.
There is no Mrs. Blinkoff, but I'll speak to the accountant.
Okay, so motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Right. And, Rich, anything?
Just real quick, I told Brenda before, I wanted to extend the invitation to all the board to come out for a snow ride with us
I'll do that, yeah.
I think it's.
If it ever snows.
If it ever snows.
It's not going to snow. I've outlawed snow this year.
I hope it doesn't, but if it does, I think it's good for you guys to understand that it's not a 5-minute process.
No, it's not.
You know, you guys all live in different areas of the village, so sometimes when, you know, on your block, especially like Gary, you're pretty much, you're the last part of our route. It's just the way our
I
route
know.
goes. And, you know, the first person that will see us is usually like Claire. So it's just good for you guys to understand, you know, that it takes about 2 hours to go from Claire to you. You know.
So I did this.
My side gets pretty quick.
I did
Our side gets pretty quick.
I did this 2 years ago.
But you're in the middle.
You're at a good spot. Where I live happens to be at the end. So I'm at the end, and I accept it because you guys have a pattern. It works. It makes sense. I would never ask you to change the pattern.
My
And the
neighbors
residents
just
need to
think it's
understand.
because I'm deputy, because I'm
No.
on the board. They're like, oh, it's good you're a trustee. We get our snow.
But it's good. So you don't even have to drive here. Rich or whoever's driving, we'll come and pick you up, and then you'll help with them.
What's the prep for, so they're saying like we could get 3 inches tomorrow, like a week, and 75-mile-an-hour winds. All right. Oh, guys, Gary, order. Ooh, what are the preparations for that?
I mean, all our stuff is ready, and hopefully nothing will come down, but trees do come down overnight.
Yeah.
We're ready for it.
And flooding, I mean,
All our bases were cleared this morning, and
Okay.
tomorrow we'll do it again right before it starts to rain around. They say around
because people on my block get panicky after that situation on
All we can do is
Birchdale.
we clear those catch basins. and
Yeah.
They should be clear. There's nothing on.
I would like to thank you for coming in on Saturday, were you here? And Sunday?
Yeah.
So Rich came in just to make sure everything was kosher in the village, even though I said, Rich, don't come in, stay home. But Rich came in anyway.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for coming in and at least keeping an eye on the weather here locally and live. I definitely appreciate it.
Can I just ask them a question? The board, on the border of Mason Drive, where it flips from the edge of Flower Hill into the town, that's right on my block.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The neighbor who lives on that edge there claims basically where the border is, the sidewalk changes color because you can tell it was done, one was done by the village and one was done by the town. He said to me that during the heavy rain and during snow, water is either pooling there or it's doing something.
Because I never, how long has that been? Because
He said it when the Lime River thing happened, the bunch of us on the block were talking about the Lime River, and he mentioned that to me as something else. So it's just part of the. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it looks like you could use a little patch there too, kind of thing, so.
I'll take a look.
I'm not really sure what he's talking about, because I do walk next to him when I go to the train. I never noticed anything, but he lives there, so
There's gotta be something. I'll take a look.
maybe, I don't know, yeah, thanks.
But you guys all have my email. I mean, we'll look out for snow, just so you guys can see it. You know, to go through half the village alone, it takes 2-3 hours. Like I said, Claire, you'll be the first one to see us. If you go through Stony Town, then you shoot right into the area. And then Gary, you see us 2 hours later almost, you know? And then Elder feels like this back.
Okay, then she's snow covered.
Is that why Gary's always late for work?
It's all relative.
But that's why we're always ahead.
You're just giving Gary an excuse for being late to work on a snow day.
But I just said to Gary, so I live on Mason Drive down there.
Yeah.
Just walking from the village into the non-village section, because I live right there. It's amazing the difference, how much better job we do in the village than we do out there. I mean, getting out of our house is great, and then all of a sudden you get to the corner where the stop sign is, and it's not far, so. Yeah, you are.
AJ, we probably do, our highway department is probably the
No,
best
that's
in the North Shore.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's true, it's
We
really.
destroy everyone other villages.
Yeah.
You don't need sugar.
I mean, we have a street
I don't even-
sweeper. The other villages next to us, don't they sweep twice a year because they farm it out. We clean everything. We're cleaning the basements, we're cleaning the streets. We do a phenomenal job.
Oh.
That's right, Chris.
Oh, they do. All right, thank you. Let's move to the building superintendent report.
Peter really doesn't feel well.
Gary, do you want to present?
So I asked Gary if you could just go through the report.
Oh,
Here you go, Gary.
I have to remind myself of these cases now. Okay. Hemlock, that was a case that came back and was approved with conditions. So that's recommended for approval with conditions. 17 Ridge Drive West, bunch of comments and was not approved for committing to the board, so they're coming next month, or this month, I should say. Then 87 Port Washington Boulevard, there were a bunch of comments, and that is also being offered as approved with conditions to the board. And finally, there was a solar panel case, which again, there were some comments on some of the panels where the locations were and how to reorganize them to get them out of sight from the street. And that was, again, being offered approved with conditions to the board.
Does anybody from the public have any questions?
I have a question. Well, actually.
Does anyone from the board have any
I
questions?
have something unrelated. This thing with the is it a tree or a shrub?
Why don't we finish?
Or is this, I thought that was part of our, wasn't that part of ASC on that? The whole issue with the tree, or is that separate? Okay, we'll do it at the end then. Okay.
Yeah, no, let's,
That's fine.
so,
So there are 3 cases to approve with conditions.
I make a motion to approve all 3 with the conditions as
Okay,
stated.
one second, Gary, on that, because I went to see the house, it's 2 houses up from me, the solar panel house. So where do they move it to? Do they move it back by the golf course? Like, because when you're from the street, is, other than my next door neighbor, I said, you might want to just take a look because you're the only one who's really impacted. Because even when you look at the house, you can't really see where
Right.
those solar panels were. So I'm just curious where they, I didn't really see any, I didn't see from that rendering where it would be. So where do they, just curiosity, tell them to move it to?
So there were some on
Up
towards
on
the
the
front of
street,
the house,
yeah,
not on, I mean, because the way
facing
the-
west, right?
facing west.
Yep.
And those were to be removed from that area and somehow pushed towards the rear of the house.
So will it be visible from the golf course?
Yeah.
Or that was okay because it's just golfers, I guess? You know.
we,
So it was no resident that, did that, I guess that doesn't really matter,
our
right?
code is always, well, I won't say code. We've always preferred rear facing solar panels. So in this case, the golf course would be considered rear facing.
And because they're not,
It's for, this
They're not
is-
residential,
This is an ARC.
Well, it had nothing to do with the golf course. The committee takes the position that rather would like to keep the street front clean of solar panels, and that it's acceptable to have them in the rear of the home, whether it faces another home, rear area of the home, or whether, I mean, obviously, if it was a different situation where the rear of the house faced the street,
yeah,
as might be some of the cases, then they would take a different position. So it's more to do with what's the public presentation of the house
Yep.
than whatever's facing the rear of the house.
okay. Yeah, I just wondered. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, motion to approve the findings of the ARC.
That was from
AJ made it.
Okay, made by AJ, second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Gary
I
agrees. Okay, next, I have no report at this time. Attorney's report.
Sure. At the last PZA meeting, there were several determinations made. One, and this was a.
Could you speak up? I don't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're sort of.
I'm sorry.
Speak up a little bit.
This was a repeat, and this is a case that this board is familiar with, 7 Maple Drive, the application of Mr. and Mrs. Paul Parzial. You'll recall that what they're seeking is a variance for a fence running along essentially the dividing line between their property and the neighbor's property. the hearing was closed on the last date and the BZA reserved decision, so they haven't yet rendered decision. The next is for Mr. Mario Savacci at 325 Stony Town Road. They were seeking really two types of variances. One involved a pool and patio in a side yard where you're not allowed to have accessory, and also involved a proposed change of their driveway. They ended up withdrawing the application as it related to the driveway. This is a fairly involved property that has an easement with the neighbor that allows for them to essentially have a shared egress onto the property. And after discussion, the applicant withdrew that part of the application, is not seeking a variance for the driveway. And the board did feel that the request with respect to the pool and patio would not in any way have a negative impact to the surrounding area, and granted only that part of the application. And it was made very clear to the homeowner that the driveway was not anything the board was ruling on, and left that to be considered if there's a question between the two neighbors. And if they do wish to take any further action as to the driveway, they would need to return back to the Board of Zoning Appeals and also to the building department. The next one was on 112 Rennie Road, and what the applicant sought to do was to maintain a patio and a side yard setback. Quite frankly, through the review of it, it was not anything that would have a negative impact in the surrounding area. Nonetheless, the board felt that having an 8.6 foot setback to the lot line was a bit too close. And after discussion, the board did grant some variance relief, but the setback is now only allowed to be 12.5 feet away from the lot line, as opposed to the normally required minimum, which is 15 feet. So instead of the applicant's request of being about 8.5 feet away, they can now be, instead of 15 feet, they have to be at least 12.5 feet away from the lot line. The final request was a request from an applicant on 16 Wood Valley Lane. And what they wanted to do was to construct additions and an alteration. And they were seeking a variance of the code in order to have a floor area total of 5,031 feet when 4,500 is permitted. At first blush, that sounds like a large request, but if you were to look at the house, this is a split level. The only noticeable change that you would see in the house would be an addition over the garage. A large portion of what they were requesting, about 330 square feet actually, is something you would never see because they have a double height ceiling in a portion of the home. And that is counted for floor area ratio, so it would not be observable at all. And after discussion, the board really felt that this would essentially be a fairly minimal request, and did grant that application. And that's my report.
Thank you. Any trustees? Mayor?
The only interesting thing is I attended, and so did Mary Jo. Last month we went to the, from Miss Donnelly from the office of the, what's her title? Losing my
Attorney
mind.
General?
No. Donnelly?
District Attorney.
District Attorney, right.
Yeah, no, it was a really good presentation on what we need to do to be secure, and I think everything we're doing is doing that. Rich, did it die or it didn't die?
No, okay.
Okay, my thing got rebooted. So that's my only thing from the mayor's report. I have been doing my due diligence, and I've been talking to some security companies about a patrol. I have been speaking to some camera companies about costs. I've been speaking to other villages.
Cameras may not be of well.
I understand, but last month I did promise the residents I would look into this stuff. And
Thank you.
let's just say if we wanted to do, I'll throw the numbers out there. If we wanted to do an 8-hour-a-day security patrol over nighttime hours, and the two companies I spoke with both recommended doing 2 cars, just because of the width of our village. If we do a single car, you can have very minimal passes. Frank, why don't you guess how much money 2 cars would cost?
How many miles of road do we have?
About 10.
10 miles, that's it?
Yeah, 10 miles. 10.1, I think.
Yeah.
How come when I ride my bike around the village, I do like 30 miles? Am I like going over the same road?
Well, yeah, come back.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, when you come back.
10 miles.
That's
It's about 10.1, 10.2.
Yeah, it's a 10.14 somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like, I know our lane mileage is, 21.4.
That's lane mileage.
That's lane mileage.
Okay, so what's the question?
How much do you think it would cost for a 2-car patrol, 8 hours a night for 365 days in a year?
40,000.
For the whole year? No, the whole year.
I take the over.
More than that? Oh, maybe 40,000 a month.
No, a year, for the year. Give me a number for the year, because I calculated.
Oh, are you talking about the month?
No, for a year. What would it be?
Frank's answer, was that for the month?
Yeah, that was for the month.
Okay, so that's the same, that's 408,000.
Did you go the over or the under?
So for 500, I'm going over.
So the answer is,
Price is right?
it's the low threes.
Oh.
If we wanted to.
So you don't win the show, you don't go to the show.
Yeah,
No, you don't go to Showcase Showdown. That would be, and compared to our budget.
I was close, 400.
So if I looked at our
40,000.
our budget, less fire, that would be an increase of our budget of at least 10%.
Yeah.
So that's a sizable thing to have. And just, again, I did that work. I've also been talking to some camera companies, but now I have to speak to Commissioner
I'll tell you
Ryder.
what, I'll drive around the village all night for 100,000.
Okay. And I will focus even in the rain and cold and sleep. And I'll be speaking to these companies about LPRs just to get a cost.
Well, the
Because,
LPR sound a little more, but, you know.
listen,
I'm
at a
so-
minimum, I counted, and this is just me counting, kind of rich. Minimum 26 cameras, minimum, and that's not that's to get the perimeter.
Do we know what roughly they cost per camera?
I don't have, I have a number, but that was with a camera system, not just exclusive LPR. But compared to other villages, it could be $500,000 just for the installation. And that does not include the monthly maintenance on these systems because there's a monthly.
Look,
number
if the
for it.
residents want to have their taxes increased,
Well,
and then that, we
so I
should
will-
put it to a vote
so
to the residents.
Part of my mayor's report is I will continue because I talked to the other company. They were, with Christmas, they weren't able to talk to me. I'm going to meet with them either this week or next week. So
The problem,
I'll have more
and he
information.
didn't really get into it too deeply, Patty, but a private security drive around is the same as somebody walking their dog around the neighborhood. They have the same thing that they can do. All they can do is dial 911. They cannot engage in New York State. So as soon as that car drives by, that car's not going to pass that location again
Yeah, so the
for
guy's hiding in the
2
bushes.
hours. It doesn't matter. It's just, we would need 20 cars to really have any kind of effective positive optic that people would see. 2 cars, I would rather have what this guy suggested and have them put in an unmarked car, have a cop drive around an unmarked car at night. Again, it's optics. It's what people see, and they don't see.
But one way of dealing with it is we know where the problem area is. There's just the one area, it seems, right?
Well, no, Country Club, remember we had that
Mary
whole
Jo
rash of
does.
stuff?
Mary
It's not
Jo,
just
yeah.
one area and then they'll move on. I mean, Claire's area is really strange because it doesn't have my street is, 5 houses from Port Boulevard. But remember all the residents that came, that had the car break in, the house, that, and then now they seem to have moved, or another group moved to Claire's area. So
I think this
I don't
Mallard,
think he can just say it's.
I think the Mallard thing is separate from
probably
because it's even he said it sounds just too
Targeted.
unprecedented.
That they would come back and start
And
paying.
I'm sure that person was
Listen,
report.
Commissioner Ryder said he will catch them. I believe Commissioner
I
Ryder.
believe him too,
He says he's
absolutely.
going to do something. He's going to do it.
All right.
That's the only thing I have from mayor's report. Trustees report. Anybody?
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Either I've forgotten or it's fallen through the cracks in some way, but the agreement with Nassau County, has that been all settled?
What agreement?
What agreement?
Oh,
The landmark.
landmark.
Yeah, it's all.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
We're done. We're
Okay,
done.
I guess we gave a conditional approval.
We gave a conditional approval.
Right.
Correct. Yes. So no, we're that's why it's off the list. It's a
All right.
completed item.
Yeah, that'll be circulated for just sign. That's all.
All right, what's next?
New business.
New business. Okay, it's that time of the year. We have to do an election resolution that the village annual election will be Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. Polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I will be posting a notice that states the polling place and the hours and the names and addresses of those who have been duly nominated 10 days before the election.
So where's the special election? They're not gonna be here?
It will be here.
Yeah. So
Yeah, Board of
this
Election
is
notified us.
our election. The
No, I
special-
know that.
The special
but
election will
February-
be, that'll be your normal polling places.
So we will vote here as well. on
If this is
February
where you're
13th.
supposed to vote.
Yeah.
I do not, but yes,
People vote in the.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but this will be open February 13th.
correct.
Okay, from the same hours that we always are, right?
It'll be whatever the Board of
Yeah,
Elections.
that's 6.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a.
And at which meeting are we going to appoint the election
That's
inspectors?
next month.
Wonderful. Someone want to make this motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And next is the Roslyn Fire contract, which I sent you. They have reduced the contract cost by 9% this year for pretty much the same service.
Which is wonderful, because last year it went up a
It went
lot.
up so much.
It went up so much, so maybe we're back to where we were. Has our village attorney had an opportunity to read this contract?
I have, I'm comfortable with the terms, it's the same as prior acceptance.
Yes.
So, and I'm told that the village insurer had a chance to take
Yeah.
it as well.
Wonderful. So
We
I,
actually wrote the insurance part.
so I am very happy. I would love to make this motion to accept the contract.
Excellent. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll
Frank
second
raised his
it.
hand first.
I'll second
Move the meeting.
I'm like the official seconder.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And that's the,
Well, I have a question.
Oh,
yes,
yes.
bushes versus trees.
Yes, so I saw the correspondence, and since I worked many years at the New York Botanical Garden, I wanted to do a little research. So an arborvitae is considered a emerald green species. This, and it is a tree.
Not in this village.
So, I think that we either have to decide whether it's a tree or shrub, because for someone to cut down a 10 or 12-foot arborvitae is ridiculous.
We have never accepted an arborvitae as a replacement tree.
Frank, when you say
Ever.
cutting down, what,
I don't know, wasn't there an issue someone
context.
cut these
They
down?
wanted to cut down this huge pine tree in the backyard and not
No.
replace it with another tree because
Does
they
anybody have the
planted
picture that you have to
arborvitaes.
see the picture of this tree to appreciate it?
It's a-
Randall,
it's-
you sent it, didn't
It's
you,
a
or Bonnie, you
huge
sent
tree.
it?
What is our author's position on
What?
tree versus shrub?
An arborvitae is not a tree. She will not accept it.
For replanting.
For replanting,
For
what about for
replant.
cutting down?
Oh, we don't care.
Well, I think we should, because an arborvitae technically is a
I
tree.
mean, what's interesting about this is that, and maybe not specific to this case, but an arborvitae is typically specified when doing screening, and if anything, that's one area that you
Problem
wouldn't
is
want to be
under our
subject to.
code, The
removal.
diameter is not large enough to qualify. Of an arborvitae, it's generally not large enough to qualify as a tree under our code.
Actually, so I've seen some arborvitaes.
Well, I guess
by
if they're really old.
By us.
Mine
They're
are huge.
They're huge. So
Mine
from
are
the pers-
40 feet
So from
tall.
the perspective of, I guess we can look at two different ways. From the perspective of a replant, we
That I
generally,
understand.
so
I'm fine with
replant,
that.
we like deciduous trees.
And that's fine.
Because
That's fine.
deciduous trees are much better for the environment than an evergreen. So when it
That's fine,
comes to a replant, an arborvitae, no matter what our residents think, we almost never accept an arborvitae as a replant for a cut down tree.
Which I'm fine with. That's fine.
Good. So you're talking about protecting more things that are growing in this case, and that you're saying that an arborvitae, perhaps of a certain diameter,
Or
could be.
height. I would say that if an arborvitae of a height of 6 feet or above cannot be cut down without a permit or reason to cut it down.
I mean, there's no reason why we
Yeah,
couldn't
but I have one,
put it in
I have one
the
right
code.
outside here that died. It's
I mean,
fine.
well, if it dies, it's a different
Yeah,
thing. You can cut it
We're gonna
down.
have to get a permit, I mean, the question would be.
Ask
do I have
your
to get a
mother. It's the tree's dead.
I don't know
Can I
the
cut it
shot.
down? Yeah, honey, you cut it
That's
down.
my father. I just my father, he showed up with a chainsaw.
Yeah, your father just cut it
There's a
down.
difference.
No, so I think that, we need
I've
to.
actually started today. I was looking at our tree code. It's such a mess. I started working on it today, updating it.
Well, we need to protect
So,
our trees
I
more.
think we need
And that's why Ronnie's working
I
on
don't-
enhancing our
Yeah,
tree
it's
code.
really, what
So-
we have is not good.
Can, when you're doing your research, or Frank, you want to do some
This is
research?
the tree.
That's a pine tree. That's not an arborvitae. It's a pine.
No, but this is the one she wants to cut
That's the
down.
Lorax.
Yeah, let's grab that one in a
Oh,
second.
oh,
Let's just grab
oh,
that. This is separate. We'll get to that.
That's
So,
a nice tree.
so Frank,
Yeah.
if you're in the mood, go on Eco 360, the big one, and look for other villages to see what their classifications are. Because listen, if other villages have a code that protect larger arborvitae's, and I'll say larger as in, I want to go with diameter, not height, because I can't ask our arborist to measure the height of things. She can easily measure diameters.
Yeah,
It's
but
easy to
6
measure
inches up
6
from
feet.
the ground, that's what you measure
Just 6
diameter.
foot, you have a 6 foot wooden ruler and you hold it up.
But when it comes to, I think it would be much larger than 6
That's
feet.
geometry.
6 feet is a shrub.
I'm saying if it's under 6 feet, you can cut it.
Do some research.
But if it's over 6 feet, you can't touch it.
Do some initial. Ronnie will do hers, you do yours.
Yeah, I actually
Let's-
looked, Lake Success has a really good tree cut.
Let's let's find out what other villages are doing about arborvitae's, the removal of, and we'll see what best practices are.
Yeah, as long as I'm doing research, I'll continue on that.
Hempstead wrote a really good tree protection law in like
Oh, I
last
didn't
year.
notice that.
It was the last year, actually. It was kind of.
It's strict.
Anecdotally, are people ripping them up, they're cutting them down?
No, but when I heard the issue of an arborvitae being a shrub, I right away, checked it out and said, well,
See,
it's arborvitae's. I love arborvitae. Some people don't like them.
But
I
it's a
like
two-edged
them.
sword, because if we're gonna say on the one hand it's a tree, then people are gonna say, well, then fine, I'm replanting 12 arborvitae.
So let's do the research and figure, instead of debating it,
What's the language of the code?
instead of debating it now.
I think
let's
there's
do the
two
research.
different issues here. There's one is what's being removed.
Yeah.
And then what is
Yeah.
allowable to be replanted.
Right.
And I don't think that's necessarily the same list.
Right.
Like we want to protect, I don't think we necessarily want to discriminate against evergreens. But,
Yes.
but they maybe aren't our first choice if it was a replacement tree.
I had a tree issue with the village years ago.
Oh, you were the one.
And the code is the problem, because it doesn't speak to deciduous versus non-deciduous as replacements. You guys try to stop me from doing something, I said that's not what it was. In this particular case, it highlights it also. The idea of a tree for a tree, I've been concerned about, because really location matters with this stuff. And the idea that you can cut a tree down in the front of your house, which enhances the entire block, and then stick a tree in the back of your house and no one's ever going to see, the code seems to suggest that that's okay because it's a tree for a tree, but I don't agree with that. I just, the whole point is, like when I read this letter and I say I'm concerned things going to fall down and hit the house, but then they're told to replace it with something smaller in the same location, and they say, no, I don't believe that they're afraid of the tree anymore. They just don't want to have a tree in front of their house. Because if safety is your concern, then replacing it with a smaller tree shouldn't be a concern of yours. So I call foul when it comes to that. But having read the code, I mean, I don't want to, be a lawyer. I said,
You see, there's
listen,
a
I
problem with the
read the code, and what you're telling me is not what your code says. And if push is going to come to shove, we may have a disagreement about something like this. But it didn't happen because.
I agree with you. I think you shouldn't be able to
Lake
do that.
Success only allows replants of deciduous trees.
No, but AJ's point is where, and you're right, you have this beautiful,
Subjective.
you have a beautiful tree in front of your house and you want to take it down and you make up this story that it's dying or it's falling or whatever. And then you plant a new tree in the back corner.
Yeah, but hold on,
I know, but
we don't accept
But no,
that we have an arborist.
the arborist
We have a
is
certified
direct.
Does the arborist
the
determine,
location.
oh, okay, all right.
But the code doesn't say it.
Well,
It
that's.
doesn't, but it should,
well,
and
gotta
that's
fix it.
why we
We'll
need to
try to-
redo the
That was
code.
my point.
That's why Ronnie's
Yeah.
trying to button it
The
up.
code doesn't say it. The code is also very not specific when it comes to deciduous versus non-deciduous.
Yeah.
Sans point, if you take a tree down, if it's not in the construction zone, you have to replace it in the same spot.
Interesting.
Unless it's taken down for construction, then you can put it anywhere else on your property. So, I mean, we could say it has to be within 10
Well,
feet of
listen,
the
in the
original
case of
tree.
construction, I get it, because.
Yeah, I can't put it in the same
Unfortunately,
place.
there's a beautiful
In
tree
your
not
living
too
room.
far from you that, I forgot the street. It's not too far from Ira's house.
Woodbine? Person?
It's one of
Sunnyvale?
these. No, it's a little further back in. They tried to save the tree under construction and it died.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful tree. But they had to come down because anything, and Peter will tell you, he's not here. Anything within the construction zone, the roots are gonna get upset and so many things unfortunately die. But, so Ronnie will try to button it up if you wanna help work with her. If you wanna help work with her.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
Let's-
send that.
let's do it.
graph.
It's okay, Michigan's killing them, it doesn't matter, it's 17-3.
but they're, because
Oh, yeah, that's what you want to see. I know, you want to see, Gary wants to see Michigan.
Because
beat up
AJ,
on them.
I think we need to do a better job protecting our trees. So I think that's a good
My
thing.
point was, not only do I agree,
Mhm.
I just think that the code, when I read what the code says and what the arborist told me, they were, and we did go, Brian and I went a few things, and he eventually apparently came by my house and looked at my house and realized I wasn't being a jerk about it, because I really wasn't trying to be a jerk about it. But I also said, this is not what your code says.
All right, well, we can address that now.
Yeah.
And you can help with that
All
fixing.
right, so
That's a
I'm
good
gonna
thing.
circulate the draft in a couple of days, you know, when I have something a little more wrapped up. And, please
Let's
comment.
do live editing and come up with
Yeah.
something that's good and fair and protects our trees, because it's not cool the amount of trees that our arborist tries to protect, that the residents are fighting man and want to cut everything
Part of
down.
my situation in my house, I hate to drag this on, I have a lot of trees in my backyard. I have one or two in the front. To me, if I wanted to take one or two out of my backyard, it really wouldn't change the look of our community. But again, focusing, I guess, on this guy's letter, he's taking a tree right out of the front of his
That's a
house.
separate issue.
No, I understand. But if you're talking about somebody who's replacing a tree in our area, near the street area of a block, you're changing the view of the block. You're creating more sunshine, more light. You're changing the view, and if you don't want to, it should be replaced generally in the same area, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Otherwise, there's no reason for the code.
I think we should encourage people to plant trees, even new construction or landscape, to plant more trees in the front of their house, because it does beautify the community.
So one of my favorite streets happens to be Park
Oh, we do,
Avenue
okay.
in Muncie Park. It's a great street. It's all trees.
Yeah.
Sycamore Drive by me is all trees. It's beautiful. It's
Right.
really nice. It's the kind of place that when you're walking in the hot summer, it's 10 degrees cooler than walking on other blocks. Now, we do have a street tree planting program where the village does plant some trees every couple of years. And that's something we can look into doing more of. But if we want to change our code to mitigate these situations, I'm 1,000% behind.
Well, Gary says ARC does.
On every tear down new build, the ARC requests trees as part of the landscape design.
Good.
Okay, good. Maybe we can increase the diameter, because some of these are little sticks that will be planted for maybe our great grandchildren to enjoy.
Right, but
We'll work on it.
Start.
Any other issues before I make a motion to end this meeting and go to executive session? All right, I'll make a motion.
Second?
Adjourn this meeting, to go into executive session to discuss employee compensation. I'll make that motion.
Exec session.
Rich, you can kill the camera.
All in
Thank you very
favor?
much.
Aye.
Yeah, kill the camera.